Hey folks,
Okay.
Scott from IT Rockstars. This is the podcast where we help MSP and IT businesses grow their business. We do that by interviewing industry experts in the field of sales and marketing and the like to help you. On today's show, we've got someone that's going to tell us about how he differentiated his business, his MSP business. And it's a problem that we all have as MSPs and IT business owners. It's like we all provide the same thing: IT support, managed services, Office 365, internet connectivity. So how do you differentiate yourself when we're all giving the customer the same thing? This show is sponsored by a new book. It's called Bear Attack SEO for managed service providers. It's a book by myself. I'll speak about that a little bit later on in the show. Anyway, on today's show, we have Jamie Warner. He is down in Australia, so it's quite early where he is. Jamie has been in business since year 2000. He started his MSP up when he was 22 years of age. He's now grown it organically up to 40 staff and $7 million in revenue. Welcome to the show, Jamie. First question I've got to ask you. When you were 22 getting into this, what was the biggest lesson that you learned in the IT industry?
Ooh, the biggest lesson. I think relationship. If you're trying to sell MSP services, it certainly is it wasn't called that in those days. We were just an IT support business, and fundamentally, I realized that really what we are is a professional services business. We're a customer service business in technology. We are not a technology business. And so when we hire people, we really make a strong point to explain that, because sometimes at my MSP is called eNerd, so you just assume that it's obviously technology or something like that. But the reality is that we're just a customer service organization that talks a lot about technology. And I think that's probably was the biggest learning in regards to understanding who we are, why we exist, and then being able to use that in a way to sign up clients and do what you do.
Can you give me an example of like how you learned that lesson? Are there any stories that you've got?
I think to be fair, the story is I was just observing why we would lose a client.
Okay.
And I was also comparing myself to law firms and accounting firms, etc. And I know you've spoken about using those as referral sources. The reason why they work quite well is because we're all we are all similar sort of businesses. We are professional services, and fundamentally they are run by normally technical people that have a skill set in a complicated arena. And I feel that IT services is really the new accounting or law firm. We're the new kids on the block in that sense of how long we've been around. And you really notice it when you lose a client, because I would put it to anyone listening is that you probably don't lose clients because of your technical prowess. You will lose those clients because of response times and being proactive and not being forward thinking and not booking in to talk about roadmaps and perhaps not looking at the new technology that's out there and getting there quick enough, such as Office 365 or
you're not perceived to be on the cutting edge, that type of thing.
Correct. And so I think losing a client is probably when you really start to realize, well, what are we and why did we lose that client? And you often are not losing them because you make technical mistakes. You lose them because you're making customer service mistakes.
I see. Okay. So I guess on that customer side of things, we got together here today to talk about your IT support panel, I think as you call it, and how that differentiates yourself from the rest of the MSP crowd, and how that's very much a customer-focused solution as opposed to your business, your managed service provider business. Can you give us some information exactly what this is and how it helps you?
Yeah, look, it was back in 2009, and as an MSP, I was literally sitting there in front of a quote to buy 2,000 mouse pads with our brand and our phone number and all that information on there. And I was thinking to myself, this is crazy. Why am I putting out perishable items across all these devices just so they know how to contact us? It just didn't make sense. We were also, at the time, to be fair, we were growing. By that stage, I guess, we were managing about 2,500 desktops and laptops. We have about 5,000 now.
Okay.
And so we were getting a lot of tickets a day and a lot of phone calls. People were calling our mobiles. The whole thing was quite frustrating. Email was definitely causing frustrations because we never got the right information when people were logging tickets in an email. They don't know the type, subtype, therefore you couldn't route the tickets. You'd have to actually go back and forth. Oh, did you mean this? Oh, can you please attach the thing that you were talking about? I mean, the whole thing was just inefficient. So I guess the catalyst was sitting there looking at those mouse pads thinking there has to be a better way. And then part of me, because I guess I've always liked sales and marketing, was like, surely we could put maybe something digital across these devices, because then it won't get tired, it won't get worn out, and it won't get thrown in the bin.
Okay.
And so that's where we came up with the idea of creating a desktop app. In those days, it was just a desktop app. We thought, well, maybe if we put an app on their devices and we'll make it easier to log a ticket, and we'll have type and subtype, and let's put in the ability to customize it per client so we can put buttons that they need, and we'll put news in there, and so on and so forth. And so we realized inadvertently by this thinking that what we could create was a very sticky one pane of glass experience for the customer that very much served as the as a customer experience piece. Now, a lot of people will be thinking, well, hang on, what about the RMM agent? Why didn't you use that? Or why didn't you use the web portal? Well, the fact is, looking at our stats, is that web portals don't work because web portals are fundamentally just URLs. And how do you standardize a URL across thousands of devices? You can't. It's too hard. And so behaviorally, what actually happens is that the end user doesn't know where to go. And so they end up just going the easiest route, which is to actually call. And in fact, I was speaking to an MSP the other day who actually gave me a stat of how many times his existing clients through Google Analytics went to his website to get his phone number.
Okay.
So he's got existing clients going to his website to get his phone number and calling off that. And it was quite a large percentage. And I was like, well, this is the point. It's a behavioral problem. And so RMM agents, well, we've been using Kaseya for forever. I mean, we're in Australia, we're quite a large user of Kaseya, but those agents are very basic. It's not exactly a premium experience. And remember, I was sitting there comparing a mouse pad to something else. Now, I can't replace a beautiful mouse pad with a grayed out menu item thingy in an RMM agent. I mean, you can barely put your logo in it. It's not a great experience. So that was never going to cut the mustard for me personally as a one pane of glass. So, and what we found was over that time is that inadvertently, I have to say, I mean, I started thinking about it whilst we were building it. I realized, wow, this could be a really great differentiation piece for us when we're trying to sign up clients. And so we very much use that, have from day one, as a way of differentiating our services. And I know you wanted to sort of ask me about the purple cow thing. And so there's a concept by Seth Godin called Purple. He wrote a book called Purple Cow. And what he was talking about was the fact that if you were to, we all know the 4 Ps, well, the 4 Ps, the 5 Ps, whatever you study, there tends to be numerous Ps: price, product, promotion, that sort of thing. And he was sort of thinking, well, you know, I need to explain this concept of that if you were to drive past a paddock of cows and you saw a paddock of cows, and you probably didn't think the wiser, you just drive past. But if you drove past that paddock and one of those cows was purple, it'd be a head turner. You'd turn around and go, whoa, what's the deal with that purple cow, right? He said that in this day and age, there is fundamentally way too many messages. There's way too much competition. And if you were to put yourself in the bucket of a client reviewing their IT services, so they go onto Google, they look for a new IT provider, they get 3, and then the 3 of you all turn up and you pitch your services, Do you really think you're saying anything different from what anyone else is saying? Honestly,
Yes,
do you honestly?
it's a tough one, and I've been in that situation. And I know when I was doing it, it's like we're this certain size, we're this certain size, and that's why I would always go on was we've got more resources than the competitors.
And of course, you could just say that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people go, well, I've got that network of engineers that I use, that third party. So I claim 10 of those engineers as my staff, right? Like, you can always sort of say all that sort of stuff. And so the problem is that we are using all the same PSA tools, the same RMM tools, the same documentation tools. We've got engineers with Microsoft certification. I mean, like, honestly, what actually ends up happening when you sit there and an end customer hears all this information and goes, well, it all just sounded the same. So then what happens? They end up just making a decision on price.
Price, yeah.
Because they go, well, it sounded freaking same to me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to
pick provider.
Yeah, and of course, relationships are a big part. So they'll also pick on relationship, but it makes it a really hard decision. The poor old customer honestly has a really hard decision to make. So that's why you've got to be good at relationship at the heart of it. But that's why, as an MSP, I thought, oh, this is going to be gold. We're going to be able to demonstrate. If you've ever seen Simon Sinek talk about selling the why first, then the how, and then the what. Mm-hmm. Well, if you talk about the why, we're all in the market to fundamentally provide peace of mind, and you can talk about those things. And we also talk about how it's important to. So we say, well, these are the 4 values: peace of mind, business continuity, cost containment. But there's 3 values you need to give us. You need to be willing to invest in your IT. You need to be willing to understand the value of why you're outsourcing, and be willing to make the partnership successful. And we actually push back on the client and say, hey, if you don't tick those 3 things, this isn't going to work. And it really catches out those ones that haven't been investing. And then you flip quickly to your how. So let me explain, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, how we're so awesome and how we differentiate. And one of those things that we use then, it kind of sets it up, as our purple cow is IT support panel. We've been doing it for years, and it makes a huge difference because this particular technology is what the client uses. Everything else that you're using, or your PSA and all that sort of stuff, is below the line. It's not above the line. Mm-hmm. And so when we're able to articulate, you get this out, we can customize it to you. It will make it easier for you to fill in your user requests because we've got custom forms. You don't have to now fuss about trying to do a screenshot. It's all in the app. You start articulating all of those sort of things. We'll push notifications to you and alert you to things that are going on. There's a video in there you can watch, to actually a cartoon video of how to use our services. You're starting to get the picture of, like, you've got to, if you're selling your service, it may not be our app, but for any of you watching this, think about what your purple cow could be and how can you really hone in on that to differentiate yourself when you're selling. Because I can tell you, it's really hard to increase leads, right? But it's much easier to increase conversion of your deals. So if you're getting, well, let's be conservative, say 3 leads a month, and you normally only convert 1, mm-hmm. You can pump that up to 2. You've actually just doubled the amount of business that you sign up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. I digress.
That makes perfect sense to me. And that's, and from the sales piece, that was always the hardest challenge that I had in MSP sales. It was the leads it was the problem for me. There was a lack of leads. So if there's a way that I can reach a higher conversion rate on, closing those leads, it's definitely something that sounds of interest. So the IT support panel itself, I don't get into some detail on it, but this is an app that you resell to other MSPs. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Invarosoft is the company, Invaro. I kind of wish I picked a business name that you probably could spell a little easier, but so we decided, hang on, why isn't anyone else doing this? Because by this stage we had 2,500 going to 3,000, 3,500 people using the software, and they loved it. It was helping us win business, and nobody had really sort of solved this problem in the way that we saw it should be solved. So we decided to launch and build the product out, and we launched last year in 2017. And so, so now you can actually buy this same technology. It's fully white labeled. You can customize it, your brand. You can customize the appearances, the buttons, news, apps, forms, all this sort of feature set across your clients at a client level down to an agent group user level, right? So I could have one client with one look and feel of the app on their desktop and a different look and feel on their mobile device if you really want to. So it's very granular, and it's with that granularity that becomes very sticky and customizable for the client.
So can you give it, you mentioned there it's sticky for the client, so they're going to stick with you. How exactly does it become sticky? Is it because you're able to customize what type of software they're using in their business, or how does that work?
Yeah, so basically the app itself, as I say, you can customize it per client, per user. And what we learned was that the more you do that, the stickier your service becomes, because now, as opposed to just a tool that we've given the client to use, and the client's like, oh, great, it's one of your tools. Like, I mean, thanks. Now you've actually given them something that incorporates how they do business. So they might say to you, oh, well, I need a button in there that actually links to my intranet, or can you link it over here? And we have a section called IT Apps Panel, which is quite a new concept to market, which is the ability to put links, so the actual app links of the client's apps on the app. So effectively, you can do they're basically just parsing through to open the apps. But what you're saying to a client is like, instead of having a messy desktop with browser bookmarks there and network apps there, I'll help you out and I'll put your apps into our IT support panel. I'll make it easier for your staff to get access to them. And so when you're onboarding a client, you can actually say, hey, just go to the IT button, all your apps are there. And remember, you can create groups of apps per group. So the finance department or the CEO can, the C-level people can have different types of apps. And the whole point of the apps section is that you can do URL links, command line, RDS and Citrix, and you can do app path lookup, which is actually how you can open up the Office suite of products. It doesn't work on command line. So now you've got the ability to can really customize it for the client. And the feedback we get is that the client's like, oh, thank you. You've just made my life a little easier. Yeah. And now you've actually become part of their business process. And if you start to etch into how they do their business, then you obviously have become more sticky, because the thought of getting rid of you becomes a little difficult, and they're going to be more willing to work with you because they're like, they've given us this technology, it's making our life easier there, and so on.
So it's almost like a portal where they can go. I guess it would be part of, when you've got your standard build for your client, your standard build's almost going into your app. So they've got their shortcuts to all of their desktop apps and whatever. So on that note then, I guess you probably have access to data in regards to how many you've got obviously the number of clients you've got, Jamie, that are using this app and the amount of users that are using this app. Is there a percentage of users that still report via email, or do you just completely block off email so they have to go through the app? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's probably one of the confusing parts of this new approach to market. And what we say to MSPs is that fundamentally this is a replacement for email.
Okay.
So if you think about a customer, and so if you were to get, and so a lot of people do this with their RMM tool as well. They'll just go, oh, I'll add it to the ways of which you can contact me.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that we've all got to understand, and this is what we've learned as well, is that in fact, what we were solving here was a behavioral problem. We were getting a lot of phone calls because that was the easiest method. The next easiest method is email. And then after that, it actually drops off a cliff. And those two are really the main ways of doing it fundamentally. Now, when you add an app that is in our sense, an IT button on the desktop, on the task tray, Mac, iOS, Android, whatever, they've now got a button. So instantly, they've actually got a visual, easier way of doing it, right? So what we've found is that it gets very high utilization. However, if you keep email, then you haven't really helped them change a behavioral trait. They actually don't want to email you. It's just the way that they got used to doing it. Because again, they can't give you the right information even themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you keep email, then it really affects the utilization of the app. So what we recommend is saying, and this is what our MSP does, is to say, if it's urgent, call me. And if it's not urgent, use the app. So if you then said to a customer and you didn't get rid of email, well, you can call me, you can use the app, you can email me, you can go to a portal. It's just too confusing. They're just going to go to the one area that's the most easy for them. But it's much clearer. It's much easier for them to understand. Urgent phone, non-urgent app.
Okay.
And so that's worked wonderfully well. So we coach our partners to do that, and the utilization goes through the roof. So we're just speaking to one of our very early partners. We saw them at an event the other day. And they're getting, which is what our MSP gets, they're getting, I think at last count, about 60% of their effort, their help desk effort over the app, which is it sounds amazing. It's actually what actually happens when you change.
I don't know what the industry averages are for email and phone, but yeah, that sounds like a good number. Okay, so as I mentioned, this show is sponsored by a book. It's Beartac SEO. Just a little bit about this book. I already mentioned this already. Here is one of the biggest problems I had in IT sales for a managed service provider was actually generating leads. Anyway, my passion is search engine optimization. It's something I've always done on the side. I was an affiliate marketer, and I had 3 local businesses on the side out of my IT career. And I thought, hey, why don't I put together some way online that you can generate leads online? Everyone's talking about social networks, building up your LinkedIn credibility, putting Facebook ads on, that type of thing. But search engine optimization is the only way online that I think you can basically generate guaranteed or qualified leads online. You can't do that on social media or any other platform. And the reason for that is customers are coming to the search engines like Google, and they're searching for your services online, and you can be in front of their eyeballs at that time. So if you are an MSP or an IT business and you are trying to generate more business online, check out the new book, Beartac SEO. All right, Jamie, I want to find out a little bit more about eNerds. Now, I had listened to a podcast recently. You were on the Ovic podcast, Frankly MSP, and you mentioned one of the marketing channels that you had was AdWords. And I was interested when I heard that you'd been using AdWords. I've got a whole chapter in the book about AdWords. So I was wanting to know what your experience with AdWords is for your MSP eNerds and how you've used it and how you maybe are using it. I'd just like to hear how you're doing it.
Absolutely. Well, the first word about AdWords is, well, this is my favorite word, is awesome. If you're not doing AdWords, then do AdWords. And I'll try my best to explain why it's worked for us. So we started doing this. I actually don't know what the date was, to be honest, but I think it was late 2000, like 2007, 8, somewhere in that range. I'm pretty sure they were doing AdWords then, but it feels like a long, long time for me. It's so long I can't quite remember. But
you would get a lot of clicks back then. I know that for sure.
You could do it.
The budgets back in 2007 was a lot lower. You had a lot less competition.
Yeah, it could have been a little later, 08, 09, I think about it. But yeah, I think, no, it was around. Anyway, point is, I've been doing it a long time, and I did it the wrong way, I've done it the right way, and it almost doesn't matter how you do it, you're going to get leads. And so my MSP, what I say to people is that I've grown it to the size it is now. So we're about to hit about $250,000 a month in managed support. So that's just support. We actually have another $100,000 on top of that for managed services, so your internet and Office 365 licensing and all that sort of jazz. Mm-hmm. So when I talk to you about this, I'm only talking about managed support. That's the only thing I care about in terms of signing up. So I'll talk about AdWords, and then I'll talk about unit economics and that.
Hold on a second. Why is that the only service you care about in signing up? Do you not go in with any of your other services?
Because it is the most profitable line item of an MSP, without shadow of a doubt. Even at an accounting
sorry to interrupt there, but I just wanted to know why that was.
Yeah, no, that's why. Like, it's super important to understand. It's actually one of the other things I say is that focus is really important. And when we have limited time, limited marketing budget, and maybe not a focus on marketing, if you focus on things. So if a vendor says to you, "Oh, sell the latest Dell servers," and you run around doing that, I mean, that's great. You'll sell some Dell servers, but that's not going to build your platform of your business, right? It's an annuity business. So build up the annuity income, and the most profitable annuity income is managed support, not Office 365, not internet, not any of those things. It's managed support.
Okay.
And that is the difference, I would think, at a core level philosophically, of why one MSP will get a little bigger than another because of focusing on that. And that's what I've done. Is to, my brain, say, like growing a business, was sign up more than you lose. And I'll explain a little more on that, but fundamentally that's all it is. So in an effort to sign up more than I lose, I was like, well, how do I get more leads? And when AdWords came around, I thought, well, this sounds pretty good. Let's give it a go. And AdWords so we only have really two major channels to have grown our business, and that is referrals, which of course professional services, you're always going to get those.
Yep. And
there's ways you can do that. And I think Scott's got some great ideas around that, which you can watch in other podcasts, I think, because I've seen it.
My YouTube channel.
YouTube channel, sorry.
Yeah.
But certainly around AdWords, it was, it's wonderful. So AdWords is, if you think about clients at any point in time in your city, so think metaphorically of your city, you've got a big circle, this is your city. Yep. Any point in time, there's flags going up of people going, I've had enough, I'm agitated, I'm ready to go. So if you think about buying cycle of where someone is, like you can do a lot of marketing trying to get people that you know, get them to know you, but they're sort of happy with their provider. So they're not in the part of the buying cycle where there's a need to change.
And they're not lower down in the funnel, basically.
Correct. So yeah. So in the funnel sense, anyone that is agitated, it is fundamentally a behavioral trait that they will Google for a new provider. So AdWords is their Google is their first port of call to do that. Therefore, AdWords is the most effective at finding leads of people that are down that part of the buying cycle of like, I know I'm agitated, I need to change. And at any point in time, if you think metaphorically of your city that you're in, no matter how big that city is, someone's putting their hand up going, I've had enough, I want to find someone. So that's why AdWords is so effective at that highest level. And if you're not doing it, you're not in the game of being there for those leads. So one of the things that we did, I did it the wrong way. When I first started, we had, so the way AdWords works is you set up ads relating to keywords and phrases, right? So I had the one ad and about 1 million keywords and phrases associated to that ad when I first did it, because I just had a crack. It was pretty easy to set up and I didn't really ask anybody. And we actually got a few leads. We always had leads. But then I started to realize that, in fact, Google works best, so in terms of giving you some gold nuggets, where you have keywords relating to one ad. And you've got to keep creating those, right? Because it likes it when you go, keyword IT support, the ad that pops up says IT support, and then your website says IT support. Like it's looking at all that stuff.
It's highly relevant to the search that's been performed.
Correct. And so the second point is that you can set up these keywords to be either broad search, phrase match, or exact. And exact, literally, what do you call those bars on a keyboard? What are they called? The square bar things.
Oh, bracket things.
Brackets. Yeah. You put those around the keyword, and that fundamentally is an exact phrase. So I started with exact phrase because I was agitatedly did not want to be paying money for clicks that had nothing to do with the search term, because you've got to be careful around IT support. I mean, it can be support for anything. And so that is quite a broad term. So I locked it down, and I had it locked down for quite some time. And then I actually, through certain communities in our space in the MSP world, I started to find out people doing it different ways and realized that, in fact, the next evolution of doing that, so you can start that way and learn and see how that goes, is to actually open it up and have a broad search. But then what you do, you have to grow what they call the negative keyword list. Yeah. So you need to grow a list of phrases and words that will be excluded so that your ads don't come up. And so that takes time to build up. And so you're going to get a lot of wasted clicks. But the reason why you would want to consider doing that is because you have more chance of getting leads, is because nobody sits there thinking, oh, I'm going to type a keyword exactly the way that you think they're going to type it. They might type IT support with 3 Ps because they misspelt it, or they want to type IT support London or IT support New York or Sydney or whatever. And so, it's hard to dream up all the variations of how people will actually type in those search terms. So if you can be a lot broader in terms of the term you put, you might just have IT support as a broad sense, but you just need to build up that negative keyword list. So that's really important.
I see.
And so, there's a couple of tips there. But in terms of the actual economics around it, and this is where most MSPs freak out and don't do it, is that you've got to think of it this way. I can guarantee it's going to give you leads. And yes, in this day and age, the per click cost is more expensive. I'm paying, I think, on average about $23 a click. When I first started, it was actually still kind of expensive then. It was probably $8 to $10, but it's obviously progressively gone up.
So what type of terms are you paying that money on? IT support is an obvious one.
Yeah, IT support, IT service. I mean, honestly, they're the two big ones, to be fair. Everything else, that drops off a cliff after that. IT consulting, IT consultancy, but IT support, IT services are by far and away the number one terms I've personally found, just looking at the analytics of it.
Yeah.
So you've got to think of it this way. So a lot of people go, oh my God, I could be spending $1,000 or $2,000 a month. It's like, yeah, you might. But the point is that you've got a couple of tips on whether you should or shouldn't do it and why you should. Firstly, you've got to look at it as a 12-month thing. You can't just, like every marketing thing, go, oh, I'll try it for a month and see what happens. That's ridiculous, right? You've got to learn how to do it properly, get your website sorted out, and give it a good old crack, right? So try it for 12 months. And the great thing about AdWords is you can set your budget. So you'll never pay any more per month than you want to pay, right? So you're never going to find yourself paying more than you want. That's a safety net. It should give you peace of mind. So you have a go and you start to get leads, and they're not going to come in 3 a month, 5 a month. It's not going to happen. I've tried every which way of sunder to get this thing cranked up, and we probably get between, if you focus on one city, you get between 0 and 3 leads a month. I've tried to get more. And the reason is because if you think back to my metaphor of people putting their hand up and searching, there's not that many people all the time searching for it. And the reason is because of a concept called lifetime value. Most MSP have a lifetime value of about 60 months, 5 years. And yes, some of you watching this will be like, oh, I've had clients for 15, 18 years. So have I. But look at your average, right? And especially as you grow, it probably is around 5 years. But 5 years is crazy, like 60 months on a deal, right?
Yeah.
Partly why there's not that many people searching all the time is because we've all got great lifetime value. People are happy and they'll just stay there for ages. Anyway, so you're getting your 0 to 3 leads a month. Now, the whole concept of converting those leads, that's why you've got to differentiate and work on your sales proposals and all that sort of stuff to increase the conversion of those leads. But that's pretty much what happens. So we, let's say over the year, I should actually have an updated stat of it, but we probably get between 24 to sort of 40 leads a year, right? But if you're converting 10 of those, and our average size deal is about $2,600 a month, I've just signed up just from that alone. What was the math? $26,000 a month, right? And my spend's 2. So let's bring it back down, and let's say you don't get that sort of conversion. Let's say, because we actually have to sign up. My target is $50,000 a month because I know my churn is going to be about 10% a month. Okay. So this here you should learn, which is, how many do I need to sign up per month? What is my churn? What's the lifetime value?
Yep.
So we know that we need to sign up 50 grand a month if we want to keep growing faster. We can get away with 40 grand, but 50 is the target because we're going to churn off our $200 and almost $250,000 a month. We're going to lose 10%ish. So that's 25. So if you want to grow, you got to sign up 50 to grow by 25, So you got to work out your own numbers. But let's bring it back to smaller numbers. Let's say that you're spending $1,000 a month on Google and you sign up 3 deals. The whole year. I'm sure you do better than that, but let's say you only sign up 3. So now and each of those deals on average is $1,000 a month. That tends to be most average support plans for MSPs. So $1,000 a month, you're now billing $3,000 a month, and your Google spends $1,000. Like you're $2 grand ahead. Yeah, even at that, even at your lowest conversion, your Google cost is covered. right? So it's a no-brainer to do AdWords, and a lot of people watching might go, but the cost is so high and my city is so competitive. It's like, well, you're still going to be in the game, right?
That's actually a good thing that the costs that high, because it puts a lot of MSPs off. So
true, that's a good point.
There's, it filters out a lot of the competition.
I completely agree. So I've pretty much built my MSP on AdWords, and we will never turn it off.
Surely you had referrals in there as well, Jamie.
Pardon?
I said, surely you had some referrals in there as well.
Well, that's the point, right? So that's how you get to your 50. It can't all be AdWords, and referrals are a big part of that. And referrals from clients, referrals from partners, referrals from all different avenues. But that's all we've done. And then you get your metrics right. You go, okay, in my business, my managed support might be 50 grand or 100 grand a month, whatever it is. So if I lose 10%, and remember, guys, a lot of people go, but I never lose clients. I hear this all the time. I never lose clients. I'm like, turn it up. I mean, it's a term in Australia, but of course, you're always going to lose a client for different reasons. And you might even push a client away. You might say, no, you're too much hassle. I'm going to push you away, but you're going to lose them. We lose them a lot because our average client size now is about 40 to 50 seats. And therefore, those sort of businesses always get bought out by other people. So, you lose because they get absorbed by really large businesses with internal IT departments. I mean, that's quite common for us. Yeah. So, but it has nothing to do with the quality of our services. And so you're always going to lose. So figure out your churn, figure out, therefore, based on churn, how many you need to sign up per month. And with your lifetime value, if it is around 60 months, then one deal at $1,000 a month, you pretty much just sign up $60,000. So covering the cost of AdWords, if you think of it like, it's costing me $1,000. I've earned $3. I'm up by $2. Next year, okay, it's still costing me $1. I'm now up to $10,000 a month from AdWords. And so I'm probably still paying $2. And I reckon in the decade that I've been doing it, I would have sold way over $200,000 worth. Obviously, with churn, you don't keep it all, but it's probably more. I should do a stat on that. It might even be over 300,000. So I'm paying $2 and I'm up 300. Like, this is why AdWords is awesome. And if you're not doing it, you're actually doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. So you've been running AdWords for over 10 years now. Is that correct?
I'd say so. Yeah, absolutely.
So you must have quite a big negative keyword list.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. I love a copy of that.
Well, I only started, because I'm a slow learner like everyone else. Like I probably only started doing that in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. 5 years. Yeah. Because I didn't understand.
There's some excellent information there, I think, for everyone in the audience that can take away from that on how to differentiate yourself, and obviously on how to generate more qualified leads online. 2 ways of doing that: AdWords or read my book, Bear Attack SEO.
Definitely read the book.
So, Jamie, I really appreciate being on the show. What's the best way for people to contact you?
Okay, so my email address is jamie@invarosoft.com, INVARO soft.com. And you can go to the website. You can have a free 30-day trial of our software and really, make have a look at it, look at all the features. There's no limit to what you can do there in terms of the feature set. You get 100 agents to play with. But the one thing I will say is genuinely thinking of changing your approach to have this type of app across your devices. As part of a trial, you do need to give it to at least, say, one user at one customer to get their feedback. This is a product they will be using. So you need to kind of get their feedback. A lot of MSPs go, I'll test it internally. Well, all you've done is test the features. You haven't actually tested the product. Because
you're not the one raising the tickets. Yeah. Correct.
You're not the one using it. So just give it to one user and get their feedback, and that's what I'd recommend. So
cool. Okay. Well,
and I'll say quickly, happy to help. Any of these things I've talked about, I've written a lot of blog articles on it, but I'm always happy to help. I feel like part of me is giving back as well. So if you personally have a question around AdWords or Purple Cow or all these sorts of things, then certainly drop me a line. Happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Jamie. Thanks all for listening to this show. You can follow us along at itrockstars.co.uk. And if you enjoyed this show, please give it a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.